Now let's get even more complex. I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, and here I've created some text for us, some outlined text, lost here. Grab that text and copy it, Control-C or Command-C on the Mac. Head back up to your second opacity mask, and I'm going to Alt or Option-click back on my mask thumbnail here. And these guys here, these objects, I'm going to get rid of them. I'm just going to Shift-click them there, get rid of them. Paste in my lost text. You can see it update there. You can see it appear inside my little thumbnail there. And even when I move it around, that kind of helps me position it, by the way. Not very accurately, just kind of a rough position. And by the way, while we're in our mask mode, I should point this out as well. When you're in the mask mode, all the other objects inside your Illustrator file disappear. So you're in just this isolated mask mode here. Okay, with your lost text positioned here, copy it one more time, and then I'll go back to my artwork. There I have something like this happening. Now that's not exactly what I wanted. So, do you see why that's happening, by the way? White areas are being hidden, and black areas are showing through. Now what is up with that? Let's zoom in just a little bit. Now that could be a cool effect actually, if you really wanted that. Maybe what I could do is go back into my mask here and crank up the thickness of my stroke. That could be kind of cool. But that's not actually what I was after here. Any guesses as to what's going on? Any ideas? Well, do you remember this invert mask? Remember that? We had checked that earlier on. That's the effect that I want. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit so we don't see that pixelation. There, that's what I want. That's looking pretty cool. But it could be cooler. And we always go for the coolest that we can achieve here. So I'm going to hit Control F or Command F on the Mac. That pastes in front. Remember, we copied this text here. And I'm going to do a couple of things. First of all, I'm going to ungroup. This is a group right now. So I'm going to ungroup. Control-Shift-G or Command-Shift-G on the Mac. I'll go and grab my Pathfinder palette. And I'm going to click on my Add to Shape area. And then I'll also expand that. So now all of my overlapping shapes are joined together. I'll move my Pathfinder back over to the right. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my white fill. So I'll get rid of my white fill, and now I'm left with something like this. Now you can't really see what I have, so I will hit Control-H, Command-H on the Mac, and now I have this black outline. But it's still not as awesomely cool as it could be. So I will crank up my stroke weight. Now things are happening here. Maybe that's a little bit too thick. Now, I want to do a couple of other things here. What I'm going to do is I'll go into my Appearance palette, and we've just started working with the Appearance palette here in this series. And what I want to do, we haven't talked about this yet, but a single Illustrator file can have multiple fills and strokes. You may have experimented with this on your own. All we've done so far in this series is isolated our different fills and strokes here. I want to add on an additional stroke. So to do that, I'm going to go up to the Appearance Palette menu, and I'll go Add New Stroke. I know it sounds weird to have multiple strokes or multiple fills on a single object, but just trust me here. Make sure that that new stroke is highlighted. By the way, it just duplicates the properties, the attributes from the previous stroke. And then check this out. I'm going to go up to my Effects menu. I'll go down to Path. And then do you remember Offset Path from a previous lesson? Check this out. I'll turn on my preview. There. Now that is pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. So what I'm doing is I'm offsetting that new stroke on my Appearance palette by this amount. So, of course, you could come in and tweak and fiddle. And by the way, I'm just using my Tab key here to get that preview to refresh for me. Maybe I want something nice and tight like that. Or I could kind of loosen it off a little bit. That looks pretty good to me. I'll click on OK. And you can see down on my Appearance palette that my stroke updates. There's my offset path. We'll talk more about this, but here's the cool part about your appearance. I can double click on this appearance here, come back in here and go, you know what? 12 point isn't frying the bacon for me. I'm going to go down to 10, tab, perfect. Hit OK. There we go. There's two more things that I want to do on this guy. First of all, I want this outline here to look like it's more of a hand-drawn effect here. So this is a bit of a throwback again to a previous lesson. I'm going to go and find my brushes palette. There he is there. And I'll go and use one of my calligraphy brushes. I grabbed my second brush there, and check that out. Now it looks like it's actually been drawn by hand. How cool is that? All right, the final thing that I want to do, I got to clean up my screen here. This is really getting messy here. The final thing that I want to do is I'm going to go back into my opacity mask. Do you see these little white lines appearing here? I don't really like that. Let me show you what's going on there. I'm going to Alt-click on my mask here. Brings me back in. And it's the black stroke on this text here. That's what's happening. So inside the bottom of my toolbox, I'll just remove my stroke. The text is still there, by the way. You just can't see it because it's white on white. Remember, we hit Control-H or Command-H, so everything is still there. I'll go back to my artwork, and there's my final lost artwork there, lost in the galaxy. Pretty cool stuff. Now, this is being treated all as one single object here. Well, no, not exactly. Here's my mask here, and oh, what happened to my text there? So I'm going to undo that twice. You may want to take all of this and group it all together. Don't forget, we did that paste in front, so this is a separate object from the mask. So you might want to group everything together if you do decide you want to move it around a little bit.